Get your message out. Learn 5 myths that are preventing you from giving effective presentations and making an impact. We're starting right now. Hi, everybody. I'm Leigh from teachingacademia.com. I'm all about giving you the tools you need to navigate academia to make your best impact. Today, we're speaking with Dr. Echo Rivera, who's going to share with us 5 common myths that a lot of us hold that are preventing us from engaging in effective presentations and thus holding us back and not letting us get our message and our ideas out there and really being heard and being able to make an impact. She's going to share with us what these myths are, how we can get past them, and what we can do instead so that we have those effective presentations that really get our message heard. So let's go hear what she has to say. All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. We have with us today Dr. Echo Rivera. Echo, hello.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. I'm so glad to talk about presentations with all of you today.
Yeah, so Echo is the founder and owner of Creative Research Communications, and you've got this really interesting job because you help people communicate their work effectively and also creatively. And I don't know about any of you all out there, but I have sat through so many bad presentations of good ideas, right? There are so many people that have great ideas, they've done great work, but it gets lost or we lose interest when we watch it because it's just not communicated in a way that's interesting, exciting, effective, and creative. And so that's where you come in. You're going to be helping us today. Echo is going to talk to us about 5 myths people have about giving effective presentations, what those are, and how to overcome them, right? Do your presentations better. And you're going to want to make sure you stay through all the way to the end, because at the very end, Echo is going to talk to us about how you can get your hands on some free resources so that you also can have effective, creative, high-quality presentations. So Echo, let's jump in here. What are these myths? What are people believing, and what should they be believing and doing instead?
Yeah, thank you so much for that great introduction. So I'm just going to jump right into it. I think people are ready to hear what these myths are. So myth number 1. Here's what it sounds like. It sounds like people saying things like, I want to make more engaging slides. What can I use instead of PowerPoint? Or I'd really like to make better slides. I guess I should update my PowerPoint skills. So the common thread here is that PowerPoint or lack of PowerPoint is the problem or the solution. So that's the myth, that effective presenting is about technical PowerPoint or whatever you're using skills. And the reason why that's a myth is because it's leading you down the wrong path, because effective presenting is not just about that. It's not just about the technical software skills. So what is effective presenting then? Here's sort of a working definition that I think will kind of help with this video. So effective presenting is communicating your work in ways that are going to increase the likelihood that people pay attention, people understand what you're saying, and they use the information correctly later on. That's effective presenting. Notice that PowerPoint wasn't in there. I didn't say anything about PowerPoint skills or even design or even anything like that. Because, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, I think it's really interesting because whenever I've heard people talk about what is an effective presentation, they start with the format that you're gonna use, right? Yep. What does an effective PowerPoint presentation look like, right? Or a slide-driven presentation, and not what you just said, which pulls us off of the medium and into what it is that you actually want to communicate.
Exactly. That's the key. Like, you can create an awesome presentation with very basic PowerPoint skills. Like, you do not need to be a PowerPoint whiz to create an awesome presentation. You just kind of need to approach it a little bit differently. An effective presentation is one where you care about your audience's experience and they can tell. They enjoy the experience. You're conveying information in a way that's easy for them to understand, and they actually can understand it. You're reducing their cognitive load. You're doing all of those things. That's an effective presentation.
So a side question here.
Yeah.
So if I'm new to giving presentations,
yeah,
and I'm excited about it, and let's assume I care about my audience, but I have a limited experience, so I'm actually scared when I get up there, which is normal when you're new. how do I not translate that fear to my audience or not let it override me?
Whoa. Okay. So actually, I'm going to be talking about that.
Oh, great. Good.
I weave that into another myth. So yeah, I love it. Good. Well, I'm glad I chose that and put that on the list of what I want to talk about, because yeah, I'm definitely going to be talking about fear and like anxiety and my personal experience with that, because I totally get that. So we will talk about that in a few minutes. So hang tight, everyone. So, but yeah, like sort of back to like the whole PowerPoint thing, you know, a lot of what I tell people to do or train people to do is things like create more visual presentations, have more visuals. And the technical skill for that is like dragging and dropping a visual into PowerPoint. So again, the technical skills for design, for adding visuals, they're not advanced. So you really can do effective presentations without advanced skills. And what's even funnier is almost every time I give a webinar, usually at least one person asks, like, what are you using? Like, there's no way that's PowerPoint. It's way too visual. This was way too engaging. There's absolutely no way this was done in PowerPoint. Like, some people cannot even believe that that's what I used. And that's for a webinar, which is probably everybody's most hated presentation delivery format. So people are really just shocked. And I will be honest, they're kind of right. I actually technically use Keynote, which is the Mac version of PowerPoint, but they are the same thing. Like, they are linear slide-based presentations. So if you are feeling frustrated that PowerPoint is boring, unengaging, you're at the point where you're looking for something new. You want to do better and you don't know how. The good news is you don't need to learn a new program. There, I said it. You don't need to go to Prezi, okay? Don't go to Prezi. Just use PowerPoint or Keynote. That's all you need to create awesome presentations. The bad news is that if the tool isn't the problem, then that means it's the presenter. So instead of wasting time to learn a new program where you'll repeat the same mistakes anyway, instead, you should take training to learn effective presentation techniques regardless of the software. Okay, it starts with more foundational elements about how you approach your presentations, how you storyboard them and things like that. So take training to learn that kind of stuff so that you can create great presentations no matter what you're using. So
cool.
That was myth number one.
All right, so what's number two?
Okay, all right, this is going to be a hard one for all of you. So hang in there. Don't like close out of the video. Just like stick to the end. Because this one is really bad. If you believe in this one, if you're doing this, you're guaranteed to create a death by PowerPoint kind of presentations. Guaranteed. This myth is that it's okay to use your slides as your speaker notes and as your handouts.
Oh, raise your hand if you've done this before.
Right? Okay. And I should say now, every single thing I'm talking about on here, I did these for years. You know, I am speaking from experience. I'm not just here judging you. Like, I've been there. I've done all of these. So yeah, this one I know is a hard one. And a lot of people do this. It's a really hard habit to break. But here's why that's a problem. Each of those things is unique and serves a unique purpose. Your speaker notes are for you, not your audience. That's what they should be hearing. Your slides, that's the billboard to what you're saying. That's what your audience is seeing, okay? And your handout, that's what your audience is reading, and usually it's even like after the fact. It's really a reference for later on, okay? So those are three very separate things. You should be saying a lot of words that are never on the slide. Now, don't get me wrong. Each point you're making does need some type of visual complement so people can kind of see it and hear it and, you know, all those things. But if people can just literally read your slides and have all the information and the details of what you said, then you're actually kind of wasting their time, because by making them watch you speak all of those words, that's taking longer. People can read a lot faster. than, listening to somebody speak. So if you just have it all there, they're going to know, I could have just read this and been done in half the time. And
I like your billboard. It made me think of if I parked on the side of the road underneath like a McDonald's billboard that was selling whatever it was selling, but then I listened to the commercial. The billboard is going to provide a reference. If I listen to that commercial on whatever that's connected maybe to the same thing that the billboard is selling, right? It's obviously going to give me more information that I cannot get on the billboard alone. So, I mean, that's how I sort of think about what you said in relation to your slide as a billboard, your speaker notes as the commercial, so to speak, right? It's that avenue where you're really diving in and giving them that information. I thought that's a really great way to think about it.
Good. Yeah, I hope that's really helpful because we just get used to that. We just get used to like typing things up there and printing it without really stopping to think about it. So that's kind of all I'm trying to encourage you to do. I don't expect you to all of a sudden, the next presentation you make, it's going to be completely different and everything. But, start by getting that text off the slides. It's hard to start with the whole handout thing and creating your own handout. Mm-hmm. So start with the speaker notes. Don't make people read what you're saying while you're saying it. I'm not necessarily asking you to say less stuff. I'm just saying don't have it all on the slides while you're saying it at the same time. It's so stressful for people. And like I was saying, it makes them feel like they're, wasting their time. So that's kind of start there, like move it to the presenter notes. Don't have it on the slides. So
yeah, just baby step it to better presentations.
Yes, exactly. And that's a really great place to start because a lot of things snowball from there.
Well, cool. So that's the first two, but you got 3 more. What's number 3?
Okay. So this one's a little tricky to explain because it's not that easy to identify, and it's not so much as it's said, it's more unsaid. I'm talking about assumptions we make here without realizing we made them. So let me ask you. So in grad school, you have to take a lot of courses on methods, statistics, other content, right? Like you have to take actual courses. What message does that send you? It says, oh, do you want to go ahead?
Okay, so what message does taking all of those courses and everything send? I don't know. What does it send?
Exactly. That's why like these things, it really takes someone to like mention it, bring it to the surface to really think about it. But what that is saying, your grad school, your grad program is saying, these are important skills you need to learn. And the best way to learn them is by taking formal training. Mm-hmm. No one had to say that. Like those weren't words that you heard, but that's kind of the default assumption. So then flip that, take a moment to think about what isn't in grad training programs, but is something we do all the time. The answer is obvious. It's the topic of the video, presentations. Right. So if it's something we do all the time, but it's not like a specific graduate class or graduate training, there's really no professional development course dedicated to learning effective presenting correctly, well, we have to make an assumption about that. And the assumption we tend to make is that we can actually learn it by watching others or just doing it. Mm-hmm. Right? But that makes no sense, actually. That's the myth. That's the myth that you can learn the secrets of effective presenting just by watching effective presenters. Think about it. Did you learn how to teach effectively just by being a student? Did you learn advanced stats by watching others do stats? No. And it's so unfair and actually unrealistic for you because think about it. You're like supposed to both learn the content of the presentation, which is hard enough to do, and learn presentation skills while you're trying to learn that content. That demonstrates a total lack of understanding about cognitive processing power in humans. Like we don't have that much cognitive processing power at once. Plus, a lot of effective presenting is behind the scenes. It's a lot of prep work. That's kind of what I was talking about with myth 1. So without initial formal training, you won't even know what to look for. You won't know why an element is there. And more importantly, you won't know what you're missing. You won't know why an element isn't there.
And you may not even know why you like a presentation or don't like a presentation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. There's actually been, I think, even a study on that, which showed that people, they can't actually explain why they don't like a presentation, but they know they don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because a lot of this is kind of happening at that like cognitive processing level. It's, you know, we just get overwhelmed. There's just like a lot going on. So we just don't like it. But yeah, we can't explain why. So it's hard to explain or identify why we like a presentation. You know, it's one of those things that when you see it, it's like, wow, that was so easy. It's one of those things where you can make it look easy when it's done really well. But then as soon as people try to reverse engineer it, and I've seen this because a lot of people have tried to do that. That's kind of how I started training people, was because they would be like, I saw your presentation, Echo. It was awesome. So, you know, take a look at what I did. You know, it looks just like yours. And then I would see it and I'd be like, no, it doesn't. And not in a mean way. You know, I'm very big on like no shaming kind of thing. It's just, that was just proof that you can't really just reverse engineer by watching. It just doesn't work. You won't get all the way there. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, and these are all things that I think, like you said, everybody struggles with. We've all been there. We're all in there, you know, and yeah, it's just something to slowly work through, and you can only cognitively take on so many new things at once.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And let's just say that we actually had amazing, well, our brains are amazing. But like, let's just say our brains could actually do that, could learn the content on one stream and effective presentation skills on the other. I think we can all probably agree that most presentations are not that great. And that most presentations are kind of ineffective or the death by PowerPoint kind of thing. So even if you could, you would actually be learning ineffective presentation skills. So still not ideal.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So what's number 4? Here we go with tip number 4.
Okay. All right. So again, this one might be a shock to folks. Effective presenting is not a natural talent. You do not have to love public speaking to be an effective presenter, and you don't need to be an extrovert to be an effective presenter. Those are also myths, and I am living proof. So here's where we get into the whole fear of public speaking, because that's where I started. I had an extreme fear of public speaking that started when I was really young, and it was bad. Anxiety is like not a strong enough word for what I felt. I'd throw up before a class presentation. I'd obsess over it ahead of time. I couldn't concentrate in class. Like the few days before I was giving a presentation, I'd shake the whole time I was talking. Like if I had notes, you'd hear the paper rustling, you know? It was intense. I'm also a major introvert, not in the middle of the scale. Like I am on the very, very far end of introversion. But if you watched my webinars today, you'd have absolutely no idea about either of those. And I'm here on a YouTube, you know, interview now and all that kind of stuff. So that's why I'm talking about this, because I've had so many people come up to me and be like, well, I just don't have the natural talent you have. Like I literally cannot do this. I'm too shy. I'm an introvert. You know, I can't do that. So that's why I'm talking about it, because it's so not true.
Mm-hmm.
And no, I didn't do Toastmasters to get over my fears. And no, it didn't just get easier over time and with practice. Like those are the 2 common pieces of advice I see or hear online about how to get over your fears. I do hear Toastmasters is great, so I'm not putting that down, but improv terrifies me. Like even today, like I'm fine with presentations, but improv, too scary for me, so I can never do it. And no, it absolutely does not get better on its own.
So that's interesting, because like I've heard those same recommendations. I've given some of those recommendations myself. I've never been involved with Toastmasters, so I can't speak to that. But for me, and I would not say I'm an extrovert, but I'm not an extreme introvert either. For me, it got better over time.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
I mean, like initially, like I would be sort of, as an adult, not so much as a kid, but as an adult, like physically shaking. If I had to be up in a room full of 500 people just
Mm-hmm.
to introduce somebody, right? Not even give a talk, just to introduce somebody, I
Yeah.
would be physically shaking. But now it doesn't bother me now. So for me, it worked. So, but I think that the point is it might work, but if it doesn't work, there's nothing wrong with you.
Yeah.
You can still make this happen. So if it didn't work for you, right? If practice didn't help you, what helps you?
Yeah. Well, and no, I'm so glad that you said that because yeah, like to backpedal a little bit. I mean, practice obviously does help in some way with everything. I mean, you get better over time and your skills increase and that kind of thing.
But if it doesn't make you less nervous, if it doesn't help,
It doesn't help with that. Yeah,
then
exactly.
what could it help? It does. It did with me, but if it does, it's not going to with everybody.
Right.
So
Yeah.
how do you handle that then?
Yeah. So what, and again, yeah. So like you're saying, everybody's different. So what helped me was I started spending a lot of time and energy making my presentation an awesome experience for the audience. And I did that by prioritizing storytelling. And I'm a psychology major. My PhD is in community psychology, which is all about research and evaluation. So I have to present facts and information just like everyone else. These are not mutually exclusive, but I excelled at weaving in just a bit of storytelling, just enough. And I did things with graphic design and animations and things like that. But I worked really hard to make my presentations awesome. And people loved it. So the only thing that actually got me from that point to where I am now is my audience. All the positive feedback I received over the years, my fellow students, my grad school mentors, the people I train on things like domestic violence even would say things like, Echo, that was the best presentation I have ever seen. You need to train other people. Like amazing compliments like that chipped away at the nervousness, chipped away at the fear. And it was so empowering. You know, it just made me always try to do better, always try to learn something new, always try to find new ways to tell stories and to make engaging presentations. And yeah, ultimately the fear, that intense fear, it did fade away. Now I get butterflies, you know, especially if it's like a big audience or, you know, if it's something new I haven't really talked about before, there's still a little bit of butterflies, but that's normal.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's kind of what I was wanting to say was, yeah, like if you're scared of public speaking right now, you thought it was because you were an introvert, you've tried every other piece of advice out there, you've tried giving it time and it's not working, then, you know, maybe this would work for you, is to create presentations that give you confidence because you know your audience is going to love.
So really, I think what's interesting is you talk about some things that people might hear that they might go, oh, that's so complex, right? Because you talked about graphics and animations, but you don't even need that stuff. That's just something that you eventually worked on for yourself to, you know, you could work on that. But this idea of storytelling, that's something that somebody could work on, and you don't have to be a graphic design, know anything about graphic design or PowerPoint animations, but just having that story woven in will hook your audience and make it completely change the experience for them, I think.
Absolutely. And I train people on this whole, it's like a pyramid and like a framework.
Mm-hmm.
That very first foundational level is storytelling, or the content. It's like the storyboard, the content, what you're going to say. And if you have good content, you know, and if you're out there and if you're passionate and if you're weaving in some stories and keeping it interesting, worst case scenario, they'll ignore your slides and listen to you. But when you don't have a really good storyboard, you don't have interesting content, or content, even if the content's dry and technical, if you're not presenting it in an interesting way and your slides aren't engaging, you know, people are going to disengage. So yeah, that's what this is about, is, you know, having a good message and presenting it in a fun, engaging, you know, different kind of way. And
really the thing I hear you saying too is making it about your audience. And I think like as academics, and I'm going to say I'm guilty of this, I think I do, it's not that I don't think about my audience, because I do. I think about communicating different kinds of information and changing that depending on the audience. But I think I prioritize my research, right? Like here's what I want to share from my research. And then I go, okay, this audience will want to hear it this way, and this audience will want to hear it that way. which is not at all what you're suggesting. You're suggesting, right, in part, start with your audience in mind. Really, who are they? And what do you need to do to engage them? And then we start to think about content, right? Does that sound?
Yeah. It's all part of that sort of same first foundational, piece is, who's your audience and that kind of thing. And that's sort of another big myth. So it's kind of like a little bonus half myth is that, it's up to your audience to learn the material. A lot of presenters will just create their slides, present it, and be like, it's up to the audience to care, to understand this, to absorb this. And, I would say it's important to do whatever you can to make it interesting to your audience, to make it easy to understand. Because if it's confusing, they could be really interested in the topic, trying really hard, but if it's confusing, they're very limited in what they can actually do. You're the expert, or you're the one that at least has more information at that time. So it is sort of your responsibility to, present it in a way that sets them up for success instead of failure.
Yeah.
People still need to listen, of course, they do still have a responsibility, but yeah.
Yeah. So that brings us to tip number 5.
Yes.
For tip number 5.
Okay. So I know a lot of people feel like we should just accept that death by PowerPoint is our fate, that's just the way it is. That's the status quo. We can't really change it. But I'm here to say, no, we can't accept that. And that's for a few reasons. First, effective presenting is catching on. So I've been involved in this area of trying to create effective presentations for well over a decade. And I've noticed momentum. There are a lot more people, probably thanks to the power of social media and the internet and all that, but people are a lot more outspoken about bad presentations, and they're getting a lot more demanding about having effective ones. There's a lot of satire posts out there putting down, people who are unprepared for their conference presentations and do things like go over time and read their slides to the audience and that kind of thing. But even with lectures and in academic settings, students are getting fed up, and people like me aren't helping because I'm out there showing people what could be in their presentations, and the students I train are doing the same thing. And so we're kind of, there is some infiltration that's happening. And so when students see a really effective, visual, engaging presentation and then have to go see yours, that contrast becomes really, really hard to deal with. And I even get DMs or private messages from people who are sending me pictures of presentations that they're supposed to be paying attention to, but it's so bad. All they can do is commiserate with me. They need to send it to somebody to be like, this is awful. I can't even pay attention to this. And, it's a great learning opportunity for my students. They learn how to identify mistakes in presentations, but that's not why people are giving presentations. And that's exactly why all of this matters. And it's sort of like your introduction to this whole video. We can't keep presenting poorly anymore because people are disengaging. They don't have the energy anymore. They have a lot of other things to do. They're doing a million things, so they have to prioritize. And if your presentation isn't engaging them, they're going to deprioritize it and do something else, even if it's just taking their brain off the hook for a little bit and just resting because they have a class after yours, whatever the reason. So we really can't keep doing this.
Yeah, and nobody wants to sit through it. That's one thing. And then the other thing too is you want your message to get out there. And an ineffective presentation is going to limit who's willing to sit through that and try to pull that information out. So you're limiting, getting the word out about yourself and your work.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think a lot of people think that it's slides that are full of text, slides that have bullet points, slides that use clip art or distorted visuals, hard to read graphs. People I think that a lot of those mistakes, they're neutral. They have no impact. They're thinking, well, people will still learn because the facts speak for themselves, or they need to meet me halfway anyway. Maybe they don't enjoy it as much, but what's the big deal? Mm-hmm. And the big deal is that it actually has a negative impact. It's not just a neutral kind of thing. Like when you present ineffectively, you're decreasing the chances people are going to pay attention, decreasing the chances they'll understand what you're saying, which means you're decreasing the chance that they'll remember and use your information. So there is actually a negative impact.
Yeah, there is. Besides people just being bored, there's a much more negative impact.
Yes.
But you have resources for us.
Yes, exactly.
People that want to get better at this, they want to get over this hump, want to get on this journey with you. Tell us how they connect with you and what they need to do.
Yes. So yeah, that's the good news, everyone. So I've busted a lot of myths, but there are more resources out there, and I have a bunch for you. So my website is my name. It's just echorivera.com. And if you just kind of go there, and I'll also give some direct links to some of these things too, that'll be in the description. But I have a whole PDF starter kit that also comes with some emails to explain it to you with my top 10 tips and that kind of stuff. I have a free course, like an email course about finding good free stock photos. I also have an email course that's free about helping you create kind of your own new template. One thing I talk about is you shouldn't be using slide templates ever. You should create your own style. And I have a course that sort of talks about that and shows you what to do instead. So yeah, I've got plenty of stuff to get you started for free on my website. So definitely.
We're gonna put that website link. It's echorivera.com. It's gonna pop up on the screen right now so you can see it, but I'm also gonna link to it in the notes. And then you're also I know you're on Twitter. So we'll put that, any ways to connect with you through social media, we're going to put that in the notes as well so people can reach out to you there. So perfect. Thank you so much, Echo. It's been a pleasure having you on. And everyone, again, this is Dr. Echo Rivera from Creative Research Communications. She's here to help all of us, me included, make better, more effective, more creative presentations so that you can get your message out there so that it can really be heard, it can be utilized, and it can make an impact. If you've got questions, obviously your website, people and social media, people can reach out to you, but also if you've got questions about how to make effective presentations, you can put those down in the comments section. We're happy to talk to you about it further there as well. So Echo, again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope that this was all helpful, and hopefully some of you who have felt frustrated that things aren't really working, hopefully this kind of helps pieces, fall into place and you have a better understanding of why. But I do believe you can be an awesome presenter.